So there's been a few rumblings going on over the past 24 hours, really, on Paris, because there really hasn't been that much news, really, has there, on the Paris squad. After last year, they dropped all of their team. They announced that the other day. After, I would say so, yeah. The team wasn't expected to do fantastically, but obviously they went on and did fairly well on occasion, and it looked like a team that could threaten some of the big boys now and then, but they were inconsistent at times. But I liked the squad that they had overall, and I thought they would continue on with them this year, trying to develop them, maybe a couple of changes here and there, but they got rid of absolutely everybody, and it sort of led to the situation that we are in now. The other day, Crone tweeted this out, CDL Intel, obviously knowing a lot more that's going on than we necessarily do. Paris Legion are completely lost and have no idea what they're doing. So obviously from this, there was a lot of people sort of questioning, okay, well, what they're going to do, which direction are they going to go? We got, players who were playing on the challenger side of things, got bids popping up there. We've got Wuskins, who's still looking for a team, popping up. And then this last night, after this initial tweet from CDL Intel, help Paris Legion build a roster. Here's the rules. So I don't know how satirical this is, but they want a top 6 roster, only offering $50,000 salary each, 5 players, 4 players, 1 sub. Must have mostly French players. Hydra's not available because you didn't lock him in weeks ago, erring to the side of him, looking like he's maybe going on the subliners. No NA players, EU players are okay. I'm going to address the no NA players side of things first. I don't know how true, obviously, every single part of this one is. However, to the point of why would there be no NA players, not so much from a talent standpoint, but in terms of where it's going to be located. Obviously, everything is probably going to be online still for a big portion at least, I would say. So you need them located in the US, where the games are obviously going to be taking part. I mean, I presume so. Is it just going to be an automatic disadvantage against everybody if you're playing in Europe, as far as I'm aware? So I don't understand that side of things, if that is true. EU players are okay. Yep, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You would want EU players with being your team from Paris. They had a majority EU roster last year. Top 6 roster is never going to happen with that salary, first and foremost, but let's delve into what I think they should be doing. It's a shame that they haven't been able to get a hold of Hydra, because obviously he's a talent that has been coming up for quite some time. And it would have been a good basis to have that young, talismanic French player in there who's just a bit of a crackhead. He's going to fly around the map, and that gives the Paris fans, that gives the French fans something to hold on to in that respect. You've got that player who could be the X factor for the team. He's in there, he can cause problems for other teams, but that looks like it can't happen, which is a shame, because they could have built a team around him with veterans, etc. However, that isn't going to be happening by the sounds of things. So in this situation, let's talk about the budget side of things. Clearly there's an issue. If that is the correct budget, if it is very low, you're gonna be in a bad spot, aren't you? I mean, in terms of how things work though, I've been surveying the timeline, and everyone's sort of saying, it's not the worst spot to be in, because there's going to be plenty of pros who have no offers whatsoever who would happily take the 50k. These guys, the 50k is sort of a supplement. A lot of them can stream, a lot of them will make a decent wedge off that sort of thing anyway. So coming in with a 50k, remaining relevant is important. If you come in on 50k and sort of say to yourself, right, okay, well, if we have an okay team built around us and we do something all right here, that raises your stock back up, and that puts you in a better spot. And 50k at the end of the day isn't for playing video games from home, isn't the end of the world. So there is that. They can sort of dictate this, because they know there is going to be pros out there who haven't got a contract this year who will take a contract on 50k. However, I think in this situation, you maybe, with the lack of money that you have, just go for the risk and pick up one of the challenger teams that performed so well last year. Yeah, look, we don't need to continue to just stare at Crones. So why don't we stare at Crones? Why don't we just go full camp? For me, you take this situation and you run with it. You do not have much budget. Give one of the challenger teams in Europe last year that caused problems a go. These guys, so I mean, for me, it would be War. It would be any of the 5 War boys, pick them up. Obviously, I would keep a hold of Vortex and, of course, of Dave, and then see where you go from there. However, These guys have something to prove. They were at the top of Europe for the majority of the year. Of course, you could go with the SNG side of things as well, but I think it will be fair to say that War overall did better across the year, of course. Especially when we went over towards the online side of things, they were dominant. They were winning most of them. War are the most sensible choice if you're in Europe. They have a good mix at this moment in time with their current roster. I don't know if they're continuing with that roster. They have a good mix of young and old talent. You can maybe even get rid of one of the players out there and put in a French player if you need to. But this is a team who ultimately came out on top and were probably the best challenger team in the world. They're going to take 50k each to go in there. And I mean, these guys, yes, okay, a sub spot would be great for one of these players, which is the least that they deserve after their year on the challenger side. But they're going to take 50k, and they would probably do better than some of these pros that are, jumping in here. I mean, look, Aches has been in there, and I'm sorry, but you are better off in this situation probably going for one of these players in Europe who played well throughout the whole rest year. Aches didn't really do a great deal, and don't get me wrong, his history, his experience is not somebody, he's not somebody who can be surpassed in that respect very easily. However, I just think it's worth taking a risk on one of these challenger teams, throw the money at these guys who are on War and cause some problems with that team. It seems simple to me, but I know it's not that easy. Then in that situation, you've got to get these guys visas to go and live in America, unless you're playing in Europe, but then you're going to be a step behind immediately. I mean, that would be my first option. The second option is something that I mentioned a little while ago. Go with a veteran player and build a youngster team around him. But why don't you use somebody like Tommy, who has a massive French fan base from his time on Millennium and Vitality, especially the Vitality side of things? Remember how, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys who are watching were around the ESWC days, but I remember the crowds going crazy for Tommy. He was such a talismanic figure in that French region, which was strange because obviously a British player, but he has a massive following around that area. Maybe using somebody like Tommy, who was sat on the bench all last year. Again, players who want to prove themselves. I don't think they should be going and necessarily picking up players who got dropped. If I was Paris, I'd be picking up players who've got something to prove, who are going to work for that money, which isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but I honestly would go for something like that. There is guys like Wuskins and Scraps who are lying around who are saying they will play for free, but then you've got the problem, this is if everybody else isn't already sorted with their team, of that, well, if you only offer them 50k each, anybody could snap them up very, very easily. Those contracts, I don't know what they would look like, but if I was Scraps and Wuskins and I was going in on that pay, I would be seriously looking at sort of, clauses in there to say, well, if this happens, I can be released and I can be bought very, very cheaply. That has got to be the case. Either way, it's not good for Paris. It's not a good situation to be in whatsoever. If this is really the actual criteria for them signing a team, they're in a dangerous position. They're never going to get top 6. Never. Put one of those challenger teams in there, I think you've got a good shot of doing something decent. I think if you go with some young European talent who didn't get a chance last year, get some hungry players, go for it then and see what happens. But I mean, really, you want to be in a better situation than you are in. Excuse the tweets there. We'll just remove that. I don't want any bias, but I did think that was very funny. But look, you've got plenty of players popping up. Wheeler's in there. He had an alright year. Let's be serious. Okay, he did alright in the challenger side of things, but not as well as anybody on the War team. Not as well as anybody like Dave. I mean, there is so many of these young players. I mean, Josh, yes, okay, he's somebody who could slot right in there after he's affiliated with them throughout the year. But it is absolutely crazy that this is the budget that they have to work with. However, they could work with it for me. I think you go in there, give it to the hungry players, see what happens. But let me know what you think below. Hydra would be the ultimate reason. You go for him and you build a team around him. That's the end goal, I think, for Paris in this situation. However, that seems to be difficult to do because he's going to be getting bigger offers than that immediately, because there's been a lot of hype generated around him. Very, very good player. But as soon as Calista put that tweet out, his hype just goes up through the roof. It looks like Subliners are a team who want to maybe get a hold of him, secure him, even if it doesn't mean playing. He could be in a situation where he is further down the line in a spot he can step in if things aren't going well on that side of things. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you think that is the best idea. What is the best idea for Paris? Should they just get rid of their spot? I don't know if they can do that, but I mean, this is just minimal effort for Paris. if you're them, I think you go with a challenger-sided team and see how they do. Just see how they do. Let me know if you think that is the way to go. Give it a like as well, and leave your comments below. What should Paris do? Subscribe if you have not as well. We'll see you guys for the next video.